All right, we're going to start back up again. Before we do, I want to mention a couple things. You're going to see these next hour, but I want to say them to you now in case, for whatever reason, somebody is not here in the next class. And that is, first of all, some of you heard this if you were here yesterday. Within the last week, you should have gotten a link to a survey from Kristen Hesselbacher, who's our grant manager. And if you got that and you haven't filled it out, please try to fill it out by the end of the week. Because the more of you who fill it out and say good things, the better the chance we can keep our lab assistants through the 2016 calendar year. All right, so please do that. So that's first thing. Second thing, you probably already know this, but I got on this, just got an email a couple minutes ago. It says registration for the spring 2016 term begins next week. The registration schedule is shown below for when students can register. I'll tell you that in a second. Please encourage your students to register as soon as they are eligible to ensure they get enrolled in the courses they need. Now, especially those of you who need, and you are planning on graduating in May and need any gen ed classes. All right, because remember, it's not just you people going for those classes. It's essentially anyone in the institution who wants to. Students would have received both an email and a flyer in the mail a couple of weeks ago as to the individual registration date. If you don't know the date, check your account. Well, bottom line is this. Today is the 3rd. So next Monday, if you're a documented military veteran, all right, you can go over to the student services area and register, all right, if you want to do that. But anyone who is planning on graduating, and that's considered a second-degree student that going into this semester had 45 or more credits. How do you know if that's you? You go out to blackhawk.edu, and you go down towards the bottom of the screen where we have all those URLs, all the hyperlinks for the URLs. You find unofficial transcript, and you should check that, and if it should say how many credits you have. Probably just about everybody on the 10th, you should be able to register. I would recommend you do two things. And again, you don't want to do this, don't do it. But I would recommend you register online. Then I would also recommend that after you register online, you print out a copy of everything you did for registration. And if you have time, I would also recommend, and it might be busy then, because a lot of students don't register online, but I would also recommend you go over to Student Services, give them your name, tell them that you've registered, and ask if you can get an official printout of your registration. Because that way, if there's any issues, because that's happened in the past, somebody said, I registered for this class, but for some reason, Banner doesn't have you in that class. All right? Again, if you don't want to do that, then don't. But you can start doing that then a week from today on the 10th. All right? The other thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to go out here because it's too hard to do it on here. Anyone who is behind in the C class, anyone, and I don't care who you are, you know who you are. Anyone who is behind the C class, if you would right now, not on your Mac, but on your other machine, the other machine that's there, go ahead, go if you would. I want everybody to see this. You can all do it if you want to. But go out into Blackboard right now. I want to take a minute to do this. I'm not going to go into Blackboard on here. This has been working, and I don't want to screw with it. All right, it looks like the first one taped okay, so I've got to take that MP4, copy it back to the flash drive, bring the flash drive back over here, and load it up over here for next hour. I'll do all that. It's not a big thing. My wife wants me to get a tattoo on my forehead that says, remember Tuesdays and Thursdays to bring your frickin' Mac. Okay, she wants it right there. Because this is the second time she's had to drive in now in 2 weeks to bring the machine for me. So I appreciate the help she gives me. All right, if you've gone out to Blackboard, then go out to this class for Blackboard. So go out to the secure coding one that's in there. All right? Once you've done that, go to the videos. Scroll down, if you would, to the bottom of the videos, the very bottom. If you do that, what you'll see in there is I've gone and done every assignment that you've had so far except the last one. So the loan amortization program is out there. The leap year program is out there. The array program is out there. And the print the string in reverse program is out there. All 4 of them are out there. You have to actually watch the tapes to get the stuff because I'm not giving hard copies. All right? But especially those of you who had problem with the loan amortization program, it's like 52 minutes and 35 seconds where I show every bit of code that I put out there for that. So all of those are out there. I mentioned before I was going to do this, and I won't lie to you. Some people wrote on their course evaluations, you're being way too nice to people. Let them suffer, basically. But I didn't want to do that. I'd like everybody to pass this class and to get in and take classes next semester and ideally graduate. All right? Now the time window has passed for when this stuff was due. So what I decided to do was for the first assignment for the loan amortization, if you do it based on what I have or whatever, and it's all correct, and you do it just the way that I did it, you can get the equivalent of a C. If you go above and beyond that to add pointers to it and you do that correctly, you can possibly get up to a B. All right? But if you haven't turned it in yet, it's not fair to give you an A. So let's suppose, I just happen to be looking that way, let's suppose that Ben did the first assignment and he got a 42, but he got it and turned it in on time and says, that isn't fair. Somebody else can get a B. They basically got what I got. If you lost any points on the first one and you turned it in on time, you can fix it, turn it in again, and get half those points back. So if Luke got a 42, he could fix it, turn it back in, and get up to a 46 for his revised grade. Does that make sense? And I'm doing the same thing for the first year people. That's why when people say, you know, you're behind on grading, that's right. And I have a bunch of people taking classes online with me that literally I'm helping every night. All right, so that's out there by no later than a week from today, because I might have to do it over the weekend. I don't know. The same thing is going to be out there for PHP. So the loan amortization one is going to be out there, and the next set of assignments, those will be out there, and it's going to be the same kind of way. All right. The one I did not put out there for the C class, just so you know, was the last one, because you were supposed to use structures and pointers for the loan amortization. I didn't want to do that because if I put that out there, then people could just grab the pointers and put it into the program I put out there, and then they'd have a B. That isn't fair. I'm trying to be fair. You may or may not agree. If you think what I'm doing is just a piece of garbage, when you do your course evaluations, if you think that what I'm doing here is unfair, write that down. It's okay. All right. All right. So we're going to start back up. So we're on page 4 here. You can see it up on your screen. We're about to go into the storyboard, but let's take literally, I've got right now, it's 9:19. So by 9:25, I want to finish with this page. I don't want to read it to you, but I want to talk about it a little bit. All right, so they're telling you that you can all do this if you want to. Select the main storyboard file. All right, so you've got your navigator pane over on the left, and there should be something over there that says main.storyboard. If it comes up and it looks like this, I'm going to do the same thing, main.storyboard. All right, and I'm going to close this one here. I get that a lot too. You may or may not. You see, you get the little twirly thing. Oh yeah, those are just special things that I get. So. And I don't want that anymore. So where was that? All right. I don't want that. Just drag that way the hay over. All right. So if yours pretty much looks like this now, that's good. We're going to all be there in just a minute. And that's not good. I think I might have accidentally shut Doggone it. There it is. Okay. So it says right here, and again, I'm kind of quoting from what's there, but I'm not going to sit and read it to you. This is what you use to create your GUI, the main.storyboard file. Is there more to it than that? Yes. But for a single view application like we're doing, basically it's a one-stop shop. In other words, basically everything you're going to put on here. And that's what the author says in about the third paragraph down. The storyboard already includes what's called a view controller scene. All right? And that represents the view controller and its views. What the heck does that mean? Literally, in this language, everything that you see on your screen, everything, whether there's nothing there or you've got buttons and labels and text boxes, they're all considered to be views. Everything that's in there. Yes, they're widgets, yes, they're UI components, but they're also considered to be views. All right? Is that important thing? No, but you'll see that in there. That's why I'm saying it to you. All right? So again, this is your app's GUI. You can create a lot of stuff in here without writing a single line of code. But as you probably guess, if we go out and drag a button over here onto our storyboard right now, and we run the program, you'll see the button. And what will happen when you click it? Absolutely nothing. Because you've got to put some code in there to make it actually do something. All right, that's what the author is saying in here. All right, so a view controller, as mentioned there, I'll move it down a little bit. Yeah. It says a view controller is designed to manage its views and its subviews. And again, that's everything that's on there. I already mentioned that. All right, they're going to talk about this in later chapters. Whatever book we have next semester, we'll talk about it also. All I'm trying to do is just get some of the basics down with you right now. All right? So it says the document outline view shows you an overview of all the scenes and all the objects under a scene. It says that outline view is useful when you want to select a particular object in a storyboard. If it doesn't appear, use the toggle button. Now the problem is what I did in here was I removed all of the graphics. All right, so this would print, so what you see on your screen right here, you don't have figure 312. If you go out to appcoda.com/learning Swift, you can see that. But you can't here because I think I mentioned this to you last week. When I printed the graphics out, they were distorted and they took up a humongous part of the screen. All right, and I just didn't want to deal with it, so I just removed all of them. So let's talk about what they're talking about here. All right. That. You may or may not see this on your screen where it says View Controller Scene. It should be probably on your left-hand side. If you didn't open up your main.storyboard file, open that up. All right. Again, in your navigator pane on the left, choose main.storyboard. All right. All those files that you see on your left-hand side of your screen. Okay, so choose that. Then you may or may not see this. You will eventually. What ends up happening is as we add things here, all right, this is our main view. As we add things here, this is going to start filling up with other things. Does that make sense? All right. So right now, there's nothing in it because we don't have any controls in it yet. That's what we're going to do. But the reason that that's important is sometimes you might want to be able to go right to a particular control on the screen, all right? And so you might say, oh, I got a button here, so I'm just going to click on it. Yeah, but sometimes when you click on it like that, you end up moving it all over the place and doing things you didn't want to do to it. So if you click on it up here, that also will select it, okay? But it won't move it or do anything special to it. All right, so that's what the author talks about right there. Next, he talks about disabling size classes. All right. And as he says right there, if you have experience with Xcode 5, I've used now 5 and 6, and we'll soon use 7. All right. But it says you might wonder why the size of the view controller differs in that from the older version. It says this new view controller is bigger and it doesn't look like an iPhone. It looks like it just takes up a lot of your screen, what you see there right now. That's the way that it should look. Because as I mentioned to you in earlier versions of this product, if I was going to build a universal app, so one that would run for both iPhones and iPads, I'd have to have two different storyboards. I'd have to have one storyboard that would be used for my iPhone and another storyboard that would be used for my iPad. And then the system had to basically sync them up. Now you only have one. As it says, it's now an all size or one size fits all canvas. This is due to the introduction of what they call size classes. As mentioned right there, they're new classes, first introduced in iOS 8. To my knowledge, the newest iOS we got up now is 9. 10, I think, is in beta already, but the book that I have was for 8. The new book is for 9. I didn't go up during the break, but I can bring it down after class. So again, with size classes, as it says, you have just one storyboard. They're not going to go into it here, all right? But what they're saying is it's something that you have that's available for you now that wasn't available for you in earlier versions. It says we will not go into size classes in this chapter. To keep things simple, we'll disable size classes for your first project. All right? So it says in the file inspector, which is figure 312, which again you can't see, uncheck the use size classes checkbox under the interface builder document. All right, it says, in case the file inspector is hidden, choose View Utilities, Show File Inspector. So, all right, so this is now, that's my storyboard. All right, and this is the stuff over here. So I don't even know if I have it here, so I'm looking. I think the file inspector is what's up right now. I didn't mention these buttons down here if you look up on the screen. All right, if I highlight the first button, come on, say something. It's not. The ones I'm going to be the most concerned with are the last three that are here. The connections inspector, the size inspector, and the attributes inspector. All right, there's also the identity inspector, the quick help inspector, and the file inspector. If I click that, it's already there. All right, or it comes right here. Now, do you see the button that right about in the middle of the screen that says Use Size Classes? They want you to uncheck that one. All right. Also, notice up above it, you see up above it where it says Use Auto Layout. Again, yours might look a little different. Remember, I'm running a different version than you are. All right. But if yours says Use Auto Layout above it, Auto Layout is one of the most, I'm trying to think of a good word that actually makes sense, frustrating things about this product. All right. And what I mean is, when you use auto layout, what you're basically doing, it's equivalent to, because most of you will get it from an explanation like this, it's equivalent to you writing CSS and writing absolute positioning for everything that you want on the screen. All right, that's in essence, that's what you're doing with auto layout. All right, is it easy? The first time or two you do it, it's a royal pain. And you might think you've got it set, and you accidentally click a button or you click another button, and boom, it seems to all go away or it's all screwed up. But the idea behind auto layout, if it's done, and if it's done right, is you run your app, it looks exactly the way you want it to look in portrait mode. You go over to landscape mode, and it looks the exact same. In other words, things line up, they're centered, etc. When you don't use auto layout, you can make it look really nice in portrait mode. You can change it, swivel it over to landscape mode, and all of a sudden it looks like you took everything and threw it off to the left. If you don't want that to happen, and typically you won't, there's two ways you can get around it. One is you make the app portrait only, which is kind of a cheap way out of it, but you could do that. And the other is to use basically auto layout. All right, and so we're going to get into that, just not now. All right. So I'm going to unclick the button that says Use Size Classes. It says, do you want to disable those? All right, I'm just going to say it, yes, I do. Yours may or may not have said that. Again, as the software gets more advanced, sometimes you click something and it just does it. Sometimes you get a dialogue like that that basically says, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Okay, so we're finally to where we're going to start adding some code. I know, it seems like it's been forever, and adding some GUIs on here. So I'm down towards the bottom part of page 5. Oops. All right. It says, next we'll add a Hello World button to the view. At the bottom part of the utility area, it shows your object library. Again, you can manually highlight those controls. All right, you can arrow up and down to get those controls, but what we want is we want a button. So I'm taking for granted that right now on your screen, you're showing your storyboard. All right, this is not like ASP.NET. You can't just have your code showing and go grab a button and drag it out there. It won't work. It doesn't do anything because technically you haven't lined up the code and the storyboard yet. We're going to do that in a little bit. All right. So what I'm saying is, to me, it's easiest to click down here where I showed you before. Way down here, there's a little white box. It's very hard to see because of the coloring they use there. But if you click down in that white box and you literally type in the word button, notice how that changed. All right, you've now got some controls here. And you've got button, and you've got bar button item, and you've got fixed space bar button item. Okay? Let's even talk about what's the difference between those. The first one is a regular button. That's what we're going to drag, and we're going to stick it on the screen in just a minute. You can do it now if you want to. It doesn't matter. All right? But with this bar button item, have you ever seen an app that maybe at the top of the screen you might actually have, like in a typical Windows app, you've got what? Up here. You've got an X, and you've got, what is it, a minus? And I don't remember what the other one, if it's a plus or what, but you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You can do that kind of thing by using bar button items. So if you wanted to set something up, and you wanted to set it up so literally somebody could step through your whole program graphically, all right, you might set up bar button items. Okay? Now, sometimes when you do it, by default, they're going to look like this. All right. In other words, they're going to be real scrunched together. Sometimes you want one over here and you want one over there. Maybe you want control or you want save here and you want cancel way over there. And if you want that, then you use the fixed space bar button items because that'll put space in between the two. Just so you know the difference between them. All right. So I'm going to take my mouse. I'm literally going to click on the button, hold down on the pad there, and drag it over. Everybody see what I'm doing? All right. You can put it anywhere you want, but I'm literally going to put it where the system thinks is right in the middle of the screen, and I'm going to let go. If you had any problem at all doing that, you have to raise your hand, and John or I can come over there and give you some help. Now, the author mentions here that as you drag the button into the view, you see a set of horizontal and vertical lines. All right? It's not exact. So you might think, well, now if I run this, this is going to be right in the center of the screen. It'll be pretty close. All right? But one of the first things we're going to do is you typically don't want to make a button and have it say button. All right? You could, but you typically wouldn't want that. So they want us to rename the button. And this is bad the way he puts this here on the next page, because what he says right here, he says, let's rename the button. To edit the button, double-click it and name it Hello World. That is not renaming the button. Did everybody hear that? That is naming what the button says. That's the button's text. That's not the name of the button. All right? So, in order to do that, what he's saying here is he wants to call this Hello World rather than button. There's different ways that you can do this, so I want to show you two different ways. First is I can double-click the button. Notice when I do that, it turns kind of a bluish gray. Now I can just start typing and remove what's there. That's not a problem. You can do that. All right? Or if I go up here, all right, and I click someplace up here. Let's see. That's not what I wanted.
I think you have to click the
fourth one?
Row of icons.
All right. I mean, thank you. I'd find it eventually because I'd try them all. All right, so notice it says button, and it's got plain, and underneath it says button. Thank you. Don't know what I'd do without you. All right. I tell you that you're my wife at work, but that would, then you'd think I'd be weird. All right, so that button that you see right there, that's this. So we can type "Hello World" in there. Again, that's when it's just the text that appears on the button. This language is not nearly as specific about naming stuff as what you see in like your Visual Studio stuff. So I'm going to literally type in there "Hello World" rather. When I get done, I'm going to hit enter, and you can see. You say, well, what happened? Well, now it's not big enough. So I'm going to drag it over and make it bigger. And if I want to, I can go back and redo it so it is, again, right in the middle. All right? So what we've done is we put a button on the screen, and we changed the text that's on the button. Now, did anybody have any problems with that? You know, you can look at it and say, oh, that's pretty intuitive. Yeah, it is. Now, what they say is you should run this, but again, nothing's going to happen. So to me, it's a waste of our time right now to take the time and run this just so we can see that we now have a button on the screen. We have too many other things to do. All right. So the author says here, this is the key part to the chapter. All right, right here. It says, you don't see it. Right here in blue, halfway down on your screen. The author says here, this is the beauty of iOS development. The code and the user interface of the app are separated. And they're separated a lot more than you think. Okay? You're going to see that in just a bit. But as it says there, you're free to design the user interface in the storyboard and prototype the app without writing any code. You literally can do that. You could say, well, I could do the same thing in Visual Studio. That's true. But in Visual Studio, you're used to double-clicking on a button and having it bring up your button's click event. That's not how it works here. All right? As far as how it works, we're going to look at that in just a minute. Okay? All right. So as the author says next, now that you've completed your user interface, it's time to write some code. Okay? It says in Project Navigator, what we need now is the viewcontroller.swift file. All right? And as you can see, because we selected single view app, Xcode already generated a viewcontroller class and a viewcontroller.swift file. All right? And it says that file is associated with, for lack of better words, your storyboard. All right? So they come in here, and again, I cut this stuff out because what we talk about, I guess it is in here. It says if you've written code in Objective-C before, here's one big change. That's another thing. When I taught the class using Objective-C, not last year, but the year before, you had to have some stuff you had to define in a .h file, and some stuff you had to define in a .m file. Okay? And now everything is in your .swift file. It's just that much easier because everything is put together. All right. So what we're told to do next, I'm going to follow, if you'd follow along with me. Oops. See if I can get that down a little further, but I don't know how much. There. That's about as far down as I can go. All right. So I'm just going to follow the steps as they're shown. And that is, so I've got this right here. So now I want to go back over to here. Do you see how this has changed? Everybody see this? All that said before was view controller C. Now it's got up my other stuff in it. And you'll notice that everything that's in here, there is an arrow there. All this stuff is stuff that's underneath the view controller. I'm sorry, that's underneath the button. Okay, so let's talk about what it is. Okay. I might end up putting some code in my first responder. That's kind of like your click event. You'll see that as we go on in here. All right. This is the other stuff that's in here that's associated with a button, where we set it up on the screen, etc. All right. So what I want is I want to have on my screen is I want to have this, my storyboard. I don't really care about this right now, but I want this, and I want my code up there for my viewcontroller.swift file. All right. So the easiest way to do that is to come back over here, and up near the top on the left, this says up here, one of these says show the navigator. So I can bring it back like that. All right. And I can click now viewcontroller.swift. And you say, well, it's gone. Yeah, but now I can click this thing, and now I have them both here. I don't need my navigator anymore, and I really don't even need this. Okay? So somehow I've got two things in here where I didn't want both those things. So I'm just going to close that. All right, and try it again. There's my storyboard. I want to click my assistant editor. And there they are. See how I've got them both in there? So here's my storyboard, and here's the code that goes along with the storyboard. That's what I want you to do. If you're like me and it takes you a few times, it's not a problem. This is the kind of thing that after we do it a while, it becomes very second nature. All right? Now we've got this, and we don't need the navigator anymore, so I can go over here and close that. All right, so that's what my screen looks like right now. All right, so on my right, I've got my viewcontroller.swift file. In the middle, I've got my storyboard, and on the left, I've got my viewcontroller scene. All right, so that's what my screen looks like right now. My hope is yours at least looks similar to that. All right. So the author says select that file in the editor area. All right, it says display the source code. Type the following lines into the view controller class. So what I'm looking at in here is we're going to put in a new thing, and we'll talk about what all this stuff means. But I believe everything that's in there that you see in gray, you don't see it in gray, but everything that's there that you will now see in gray on your screen, which didn't come up in gray, right there. That's what you've got to add. And a little further there. All right? So you've got to add that stuff at the bottom of your page. Does that make sense to you? All right? Now, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I've tried in the past copying stuff from a PDF and throwing it into my code. Ever hear what I'm saying? And it hasn't worked very well. It might go in there and it might look just fine, but then within 2 or 3 minutes, it looks like, it just stops working. So I'd suggest that you manually key that stuff in. I can't really go down any further on here. I guess I can a little bit. There. So what I'm going to do, it's 9:44. I'm done for today. But I'm going to give you time to key all that stuff in. I'll leave it up there until the 10 o'clock class starts, okay? Then what I'll do before the next class is I'll key that into mine. I'm not concerned with that. I'll catch up to you. But we'll pick it up here next time on right here. So the next thing after we do this, all right, we'll have the source code in there. Then we'll have to connect our user interface to the source code and test it. Hopefully we can do that within the first half hour or so, all right, or so next time. We're on page 7 of an 8-page document, all right? When we get done with this, we're immediately going to go and start up a brand new project. And we're just going to wing it and kind of do it from scratch, all right? And that's what we'll end up doing next week. So the tape will be a little longer because I'm going to leave this up there for about 10 more minutes.
We could do
You can, what's
the
that?
same thing.
It's the same thing. In fact, on page 7 of that handout, I believe it's page 7, that's what I've got on the screen right now. That's what your whole viewcontroller.swift should look like when you're done. So you can see the stuff you're adding is the stuff that's right in the middle of the page right there. And the last thing, I just want to make sure you understand, this first stuff that we're doing right now, you don't have to turn this in. All right, I want people to get used to writing a simple app. And we'll write another simple app. Then you're going to come in here within the next couple weeks, and I'm going to say, okay, here's a third simple app. You've got the whole period, or the first hour, hour and a half to work on it. Then we'll go over how I did it as a class. Yours might be similar, yours might be very different. All right, that'll be the next 2 or 3 weeks. That is what we'll be doing in here. And then after break, all right, after break, we'll have 3 more weeks. What I'd like to do, like maybe for the first week of that, is to just give you an app. You do this. Have you work on it both periods for a week. Then the next week, we go over it. That make sense? All right, and maybe if we have time, do 2 of those. That's going to put us in really good shape. If we can keep up something like that in here and in Android, that'll put us in really good shape for the spring semester. John, I sent you another log file.
Okay.
What I did, just so you know, is I went in there and I thought, well, the emulator still looks exactly the same right now. I mean, it still looks like this. But I thought, you know what, just for the hell of it, I'm going to start and run the project anyway.
Good.
Okay? So when I did, it's probably what you'd expect, but this is what I got. It says launch, then it says performing this. Then I said, I got a read-only file system. So
Okay.
I don't know what any of that stuff means, but I sent you that one too.
Okay. Now I'll check it out this afternoon. What?
How many people weren't here last week and did not see that book that I passed around? Anybody? You didn't? Okay, I'll go up and get it and bring it back down then.
Well, you're in the edit. Well, it depends. You're gotta use both attachments. But just come over here. There's your phone.
I Mac back in like freshman year of high school. First scouting
Yeah.
class.
Oh, just.
I didn't know
Or
what
leave that.
Counselor or whatever, make sure I had all my credits. All my classes here. I'll take classes here too.
Start.
Oh yeah, you told me he was like, yeah, this is bad.
Oh, you just got it all zipped in there.
Oh yeah.
Anything that comes up. Do you want me to print out a copy of those instructions to migrate the AVDs?
Yeah, I think we should maybe do that first thing.
Okay.
So. And I'll do it with them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, and then that way, not if, but when I screw up, you can tell me when I'm screwing up. Does everybody have that typed in? Anybody still typing it? It's okay if you are. Okay. I'll wait a couple more minutes.
Get yourself ready for it.
So Luke, have you read today's headlines?
NFL one? They fired-
Titans fired Wisenhunt, and the Nats named Dusty Baker their manager.
Who did? The Nationals?
Yep, that says to me that they don't ever want to win a title.
Wow, yeah, they'll get close though, but you know they ain't gonna get it. Dusty's good for getting to the playoffs once or twice. Where's this guy go? I want him to fire Chuck Pagano and bench Andrew Luck. Sick of watching that stuff.
Yeah, but from what I read, he almost won it for him at the end.
That's him. It's like he's trying to prove he only needs one quarter, you know? Oh. Yeah, I'm getting too old to watch that stuff, man. Heart attack. Oh, yeah. That's insane. That's got great feeling. There's no control Z. There's that.
Thank you.
No.
Jack,
That's the best material. Sleeping at pajamas and wear pants. I got the
That's right.
I love that guy. Oh, he passed away though.
I've been falling asleep for like past week watching this on Twitch.
Yeah, it used to be on MTV, I think, or something like that.
Oh, really?
I grew up on it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Joy of painting. Beat the devil out of
Oh, wait. You got too much in there.